Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be exploring this piece called 7 Ways to Overcome Your Fear and Anxiety. Marcus Aurelius' Stoicism.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah. So get ready to kind of unlock your inner Stoic a little bit because we're going to go beyond simply coping with fear and anxiety.
Right.
And we're actually going to look at how to use them to become more resilient,
Yeah.
which I love that idea.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Stoicism, is
Yeah.
finding strength in the things that we usually think of as weaknesses.
Yeah.
And the first point in this piece really sets the stage for this transformation.
Okay.
It says that fear and anxiety are not your enemies, they're your teachers.
You know, I've heard that before,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I really get it.
Yeah.
How can something that feels so negative actually be a teacher?
Well, imagine this. You're terrified of speaking up in meetings.
Oh, yeah.
Your heart races, your palms sweat, you'd rather do anything else.
I've been there.
But what if that fear is actually trying to tell you something? Maybe it's revealing how much you value the team's opinion or a deep desire to contribute meaningful ideas.
You're right. I guess it's not just about the fear itself.
Right.
It's about understanding the why behind it.
Exactly. The Stoics believe that fear and anxiety are signals,
Okay.
like messengers pointing to our underlying judgments and values.
Interesting.
So when you feel that wave of fear, don't just try to push it away.
Right.
Ask yourself, what am I afraid of?
Okay.
What story am I telling myself?
Right.
That's where the real learning begins.
Okay, so instead of seeing fear as the enemy, we need to see it as a teacher. But then what do we do with those lessons once we understand them?
Well, that brings us to the second Stoic strategy, which is all about control,
Okay.
or more specifically, focusing on what you can control.
Right. The Stoics were big on that whole
Yes.
some things are in our control, others are not.
Absolutely.
That idea.
And that's where a lot of our anxiety comes from, trying to control the uncontrollable. What other people think, what might happen in the future. It's exhausting,
Yeah, it is.
and it's ultimately futile.
Yeah, it's like trying to hold back the tide with a broom.
Exactly. So the Stoics suggest asking a simple but powerful question whenever you feel that anxiety creeping in.
Okay.
Is this within my control?
Okay.
If it is, great, take action.
Take action.
If it's not, consciously choose to let it go.
Easier said than done.
It's not easy, but it's a practice.
Okay, I see how focusing on what we can control could help us feel more empowered.
Right.
But let's be honest, sometimes letting go of those worries feels impossible. Like my brain just loves to spiral out of control.
It's true, our minds can be tricky like that. But there are Stoic exercises that can help. One that might sound a bit unexpected is negative visualization.
Negative visualization. Wait, isn't that like inviting bad vibes?
Not quite. It's not about dwelling on negativity. It's about mentally preparing yourself for potential challenges by imagining what could go wrong.
So instead of just hoping for the best, you're actually thinking about what could go wrong.
Exactly. Think of it like planning a trip. You wouldn't just book a flight and assume everything would go perfectly.
Yeah.
You'd probably consider potential issues,
Right.
flight delays, lost luggage, bad weather.
Oh, yeah.
That way, if something does happen, you're not completely thrown off guard. You've already mentally rehearsed how you'd handle it.
Okay, so it's like taking the power away from the unknown by acknowledging it. But how does that help with fear and anxiety?
It helps in a couple of ways. First, it reduces the fear of the unknown because you're no longer blindsided by it.
Okay.
And second, it cultivates gratitude for what you have right now.
Hmm.
When you visualize the possibility of things going wrong, it makes you appreciate the good things in your life even more.
Wow, that's actually pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
So instead of fearing what might happen, you're using negative visualization to prepare for it and appreciate what you already have.
Precisely. And the more you practice this, the less power those anxieties will have over you.
I'm definitely adding that to my mental toolkit. But before we get too carried away, what's the next Stoic strategy on our list?
The next point is all about finding peace in the present moment, which, as you know, is something a lot of us struggle with.
Oh, tell me about it.
Right.
My mind is constantly bouncing between regrets about the past and worries about the future. It's exhausting.
Yeah, that's where the Stoic emphasis on the present moment comes in. They saw the past is gone and the future is uncertain.
Right.
The only place we truly have agency is right now.
Oh, okay. That makes sense logically.
Yeah.
But how do you actually do that? Like, how do you stop your mind from wandering all over the place?
Think of it like this. You're stuck in traffic.
The worst.
You can choose to be frustrated and angry, which won't change the situation, Or you can choose to use that time productively. Listen to a podcast.
Yeah.
Make a phone call. Practice mindfulness.
So it's about shifting your perspective even when you can't change the situation itself.
Exactly. And just like with negative visualization, this takes practice.
Right.
The more you consciously bring your attention back to the present moment, the easier it becomes.
Okay, I'm starting to see a theme here. It seems like a lot of Stoic philosophy is about shifting our perspective and focusing on what we can control.
You're absolutely right. And that's a powerful skill to cultivate
Yeah.
because it allows us to find a sense of peace and agency even in the midst of chaos.
This is all great stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm really enjoying this deep dive into Stoicism. But I think we need to pause here
Okay.
before my brain explodes.
That sounds like a good plan. We've covered a lot of ground already.
We have. We've learned to reframe fear and anxiety as teachers,
Right.
focus on what we can control, and use negative visualization and present moment awareness to manage those tricky emotions. So when we come back, what are we going to be talking about?
Well, in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore even more Stoic tools for turning those challenges into opportunities for growth.
Okay. I like it. Looking forward to it.
Me too.
All right, so we're back, and we are deep in our exploration of Stoicism
Yes,
and how to use it to overcome fear and anxiety. So far, we've learned to reframe fear and anxiety as teachers,
Right.
focus on what we can control, and use negative visualization and present moment awareness to manage those tricky emotions.
It's a good start.
So what else have the Stoics got for us?
Well, the fifth point in this piece is about embracing challenges as opportunities for growth. I think you'll find this one particularly interesting.
Okay, yeah, I'm all about turning lemons into lemonade.
Yeah.
But how does that work in a Stoic context?
Well, the Stoics had a very different perspective on obstacles than most of us do today.
Okay.
They didn't see them as roadblocks or failures, but as integral parts of the journey. In fact, Marcus Aurelius famously said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way."
Oh, wow, that's a really good quote. So instead of getting discouraged by challenges,
Right.
the Stoics actually saw them as essential for progress.
Precisely. They believed that facing difficulties, even setbacks, was how we develop strength, resilience, and wisdom.
It makes you wonder if they were secretly into CrossFit or something.
Maybe.
I've been thinking about a time when I completely bombed a presentation at work.
Oh, no.
Oh, it was mortifying at the time.
Yeah.
But looking back, that experience actually taught me some invaluable lessons about preparation and public speaking. And honestly, it really helped me grow as a professional.
That's a perfect example of what the Stoics were talking about. It's not about seeking out hardship,
Right.
but about reframing our perspective when those challenges inevitably arise.
Okay.
Instead of seeing them as something to fear or avoid, we can view them as opportunities to learn and become better versions of ourselves.
So it's about embracing the discomfort of growth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Stoics believe that real growth happens outside of our comfort zones. It's in those moments of challenge that we discover our true potential.
I love that. It's so empowering to think about challenges as opportunities for growth rather than as setbacks. Okay, what's next on our list of Stoic strategies?
The sixth point might be a little bit more challenging to wrap our heads around.
Yeah.
It's about detaching from outcomes.
Detaching from outcomes.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit counterintuitive.
Uh-huh.
Don't we need goals and
Yeah.
desired outcomes to motivate us?
Of course, having goals is important, but the Stoics believed that fixating on specific outcomes could actually lead to anxiety and disappointment.
Right.
After all, we can't control everything. Epictetus put it this way: do not hope that events will turn out the way you want. Welcome events in whichever way they happen.
I mean, he's not wrong. Okay, so it's not about not caring about the results. It's about focusing on what we can control.
Yes.
Our actions and our efforts, and letting go of the need to control the outcome.
Exactly. Imagine you're training for a marathon. You can control your training schedule, your diet, your mindset, but you can't control the weather on race day or whether you might get a side stitch.
Okay, yeah. So the true measure of success is the dedication and effort you put into the training, not necessarily crossing the finish line first.
Precisely. And this applies to all areas of life.
Yeah.
Relationships, careers, creative projects.
Right.
We can pour our hearts into something,
Yeah.
but we can't always guarantee a specific outcome. The Stoics would say that true freedom comes from accepting this reality and focusing on what we can control.
That's a tough one, especially in a culture that's so obsessed with results and achievements. But I see how holding on too tightly to specific outcomes can lead to a lot of unnecessary stress and anxiety.
It can also rob us of the joy of the process.
Yeah.
When we're constantly focused on the end goal,
Yeah.
we miss out on the beauty and the learning that happens along the way.
Okay. I'm starting to see the wisdom in detaching from outcomes. So we've learned about reframing challenges and letting go of the need to control the outcome.
Right.
What's the final tool in our Stoic toolkit?
The seventh and final point focuses on building courage through daily action.
Now, that's something I think we could all use a little more of.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling the Stoic definition of courage might be a bit different from how we usually think about it.
You're right. The Stoics didn't see courage as the absence of fear. They knew that fear is a natural human emotion. To them, courage was about acting in spite of fear.
So it's not about waiting until you feel brave.
Right.
It's about taking action even when you're afraid.
Exactly. And the Stoics believed that courage is built through small, everyday choices. It's those moments when you choose to step outside of your comfort zone,
Okay.
even if it's just a little bit.
Like speaking up in a meeting when you have an idea, or admitting a mistake,
Yeah,
setting a boundary in a relationship.
exactly. These seemingly small acts of courage are what strengthen our resilience muscle. And over time, the things that once seemed terrifying start to feel more manageable.
That's really encouraging. It makes courage seem much more accessible. I like how you said it's like a muscle. We can build it through practice. What else did the Stoics have to say about courage?
They also believe that courage is closely connected to vulnerability.
Oh, interesting.
True courage often involves embracing vulnerability,
Okay.
being willing to put yourself out there knowing that you might fail or be rejected.
So it's not about avoiding failure. It's about being willing to take risks and learn from our mistakes.
Exactly. And they also saw a strong connection between courage and integrity.
Yeah.
For them, true bravery often meant standing by your principles even when it was difficult or unpopular.
So courage isn't just about facing our fears.
Yeah.
It's about living in alignment with our values,
Yes.
even when it's hard.
That's a great way to put it. The Stoics believed that true courage was about making choices that reflected your deepest sense of what's right,
Wow.
regardless of the external consequences.
This has been an incredible deep dive into Stoicism. We've covered so much ground,
I know, right?
from reframing fear to finding courage in everyday actions. It's amazing how relevant these ancient philosophies still are today.
It is, isn't it? The Stoics were dealing with many of the same challenges we face today: uncertainty, anxiety, and the desire to live a meaningful life.
Yeah.
Their wisdom has truly stood the test of time.
Well, I'm definitely feeling inspired to put some of these Stoic strategies into practice. But before we wrap things up,
Okay.
I want to get your final thoughts. What's the one key takeaway you hope our listener walks away with today?
I think the most important thing to remember is that we always have a choice. We can choose to let fear and anxiety control us,
Right.
or we can choose to use them as fuel for growth and transformation.
I love that. It's a reminder that even in the midst of difficult circumstances, we have the power to choose our response. And the Stoics have given us some incredibly valuable tools to help us do just that.
Exactly. And the beauty of these principles is that they're not just abstract concepts.
Right.
They're practical tools that we can apply to our everyday lives to cultivate more peace, resilience, and courage.
So it's not about becoming a Stoic philosopher.
Yeah.
It's about incorporating these timeless strategies into our modern lives.
Precisely. And the more we practice these principles,
Yeah.
the more natural they become. It's like building a muscle.
Right.
The more we use it, the stronger it gets.
Well put. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Stoic wisdom.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and remember, you've got this.
So, as we've been discussing these Stoic strategies, I've been struck by how much they emphasize personal responsibility and taking ownership of our experiences. Absolutely. The Stoics believed that true freedom comes from recognizing that while we can't always control what happens to us,
Right.
we can always control how we respond.
And that's such an empowering idea. It takes the focus away from feeling like a victim of circumstances.
Yeah.
And puts it back on our own choices and actions.
Precisely. And I think that's a key part of what makes Stoicism so relevant today. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable,
Oh, yeah.
these principles offer a sense of agency and control.
It's like having a roadmap for navigating life's inevitable ups and downs. Instead of getting swept away by our emotions,
Right.
we can use these Stoic tools to kind of find our footing and move forward with more clarity and purpose.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating that inner resilience,
Yeah.
that ability to weather the storms and come out stronger on the other side.
I'm curious, as we've been talking about these Stoic principles, I've been thinking about how they could be applied not just to individual challenges, but also to some of the larger issues we're facing as a society.
That's a fascinating thought. I think there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah.
Imagine if we could approach challenges like climate change,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
social injustice, or political polarization with a Stoic mindset.
Okay, so instead of getting caught up in fear and blame,
Right.
we could focus on what we can control,
Yes.
embrace the challenges as opportunities for growth,
Exactly.
and work together to create a more just and sustainable world.
The Stoics would remind us that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles,
Right.
we always have the power to choose our response.
Right.
We can choose to act with courage, compassion, and a commitment to the common good.
It's a reminder that even though we might feel small in the face of these huge challenges, our individual choices still matter.
And collectively, those choices can create a ripple effect.
Yeah.
By embracing these Stoic principles,
Yeah.
we can not only navigate our own anxieties, but also contribute to creating a better world for everyone.
That's a powerful message to end on. It's a reminder that we're not just passive bystanders in the face of life's challenges.
Yeah.
We have the power to choose our response, to act with courage, and to make a difference.
Well said. I hope our listeners feeling empowered to face whatever challenges come their way with a renewed sense of clarity, courage, and resilience.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Stoic wisdom. It's been a pleasure. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and remember, you got this.